In today's episode of Retiring Today, we're talking about the 3 things that can derail your retirement plan.
This recession that most people think is coming sooner than later, eye-popping medical expenses, and finally the silent assassin that we call inflation.
Join us for Retiring Today. Welcome to Retiring Today. In this episode, we're talking about the events that can derail your retirement. I'm here with Loren Merkle. He's a certified financial planner. And Loren, people work so hard. They work 20, 30, sometimes 40 years to save for retirement. And then you think, oh, now it's time to have a lot of fun. And retirement is fun, but there are definitely some things that can happen that are factors outside of people's control that can derail that plan that they have in retirement.
Yeah, there certainly are, and retirement is a lot of fun. I mean, the families that we work with, they have a lot of fun in retirement, but what oftentimes the piece of feedback that they give us is they didn't realize there was so many steps going to retirement, because you're right. I mean, they work for 20, 30, 40 years, and when you're 40 years old, you have all these grand visions of what retirement might be. You know, you wake up in the morning, you go out on the deck, you have your cup of coffee, you watch the sunrise.
Every day is a Saturday, right?
Every day is a Saturday, and you get to do anything you want to. The sunrise turns into sunset, the coffee turns into wine.
I'm in.
Either
Sounds
way,
great.
you're just having a lot of fun and doing the things that you want to do, which are the things that we haven't been able to do, or you haven't been able to do your entire working career. You have that luxury now of time. But in order to get to fully enjoy that luxury of time, there's a lot of planning that needs to take place. And this is what people experience that you didn't really envision when you were 40 years old, is you have to put the steps in place. There are permanent decisions that you are going to make to ensure that your retirement is the dream that you always thought it was. And even if you put the best plan in place, events happen in our lives just like they always have, but events in retirement still happen that can derail those plans. So we're going to talk about today about some of the key events that we see happen all the time, unfortunately, how you can incorporate those events into your plan, and then the what if. What if the plan that is in place just doesn't work out, because life often happens that way? What kind of plan Bs can you then go to? And some of these big events are things like inflation, right? That's not necessarily unexpected, but it's oftentimes left out. The big one is the medical expenses. What if we have some unforeseen medical expenses that really consume your investments or the monthly budget that you've outlined? And then we also have the recession, which is what a lot of people are focused on right now.
Okay, let's get to the recession first, because a recession can really be a roadblock to retirement, especially depending on where your investments are at.
Well, it can be. All we have to do is think back 11 short years ago, and it seems like it's been a long time, but that recession that we went through, they call it the Great Recession for a reason, because it was so massive, and everybody probably knows people who had to come out of retirement because of what their 401k did. It turned into a 201k, or they couldn't retire like they wanted to because of this recession. What our message is to our families, to you, is that you do not have to let this next recession derail your retirement. It will derail many people's retirements. Those who have not properly planned for it, those who have not properly taken the recession into account into their retirement plan, it will derail. But you don't have to be one of those.
So how do you know a recession's coming?
Yeah, and that's really the question of the hour, because nobody really knows when this next recession will happen. These recessions aren't necessarily predictable, but there are indicators that we can look at to say, okay, a recession might be coming sooner than later. And we're going to show you 3 quick indicators that people can use to identify when a recession might be looming. This first one is the unemployment rate. Just look where unemployment rate is right now. It's near all-time lows. Mm-hmm. So if we go back all the way to 1969 and we look at the unemployment trends, what we can see is that after the unemployment bottoms out, similar to where we're at right now, these gray vertical lines are the recession. So you can see unemployment back in 1970, the unemployment rate bottomed out.
Yeah, under 4%.
Yep, and then here we go. Here comes the recession. In 1973, unemployment rate bottomed out. And then right after that, here comes the recession. Fast forward to 2001, In 2000, unemployment rate bottomed out. Here comes the recession. And then the big one we all remember, 2007, unemployment rate bottomed out. 2008, the big Great Recession hit. So that's one indicator that we can use. And of course, look at where we're at 2019. Unemployment rate has way down and it's starting to creep back up. So is it coming? That's
possible.
That's the question.
It's an indicator, right?
That's an indicator. This next one is the yield curve, and right now you're seeing online, or if you watch any business networks, you're hearing them talk about this inverted or potential inverted yield curve. Okay, what this means is that the lower maturities, like the 3-month or 2-year Treasury, has a higher yield than what the longer maturities have, the 10-year and the 30. Okay, so it's not quite there yet, but it has dipped into it. In fact, March of this year, we had an inverted yield curve. So it does vary, but what we're looking at here is the 10-year Treasury versus the 2-year Treasury, and this is going all the way back to 1980. And you can see that on the upswing of this curve is when these recessions happen. So here the curve is going down, and we're back on the upswing. We see this vertical gray line, and a recession takes place. Then it comes back down. On the upswing, here comes the gray vertical line. And you can see this all the way out through 2019. And the latest one being, of course, in 2008. So there's a trend there, right? It's undeniable trend that's leading to an indication of potentially a recession. And this last one is my favorite one, probably because it's just so fun to say. This is the small business optimism index. Do you want to say it too? This is the
kind of stuff you love.
That was really fun. Do you want to have fun? Do you want to say it?
Let's see it. Let's see what the small business optimism index, how that indicates a recession.
Okay, and essentially what this index measures is small business owners' optimism, right? Are they investing in their business? Are they applying capital to the growth of their business, or are they kind of hoarding their cash, just kind of waiting for this impending recession that everybody thinks may take place? And again, you can see after the peak of their optimism comes a recession. So this goes all the way back to 1984, and then we have the recession. After the peak in the late 90s, I mean, everybody remembers the late 90s. This is when the market was just booming. I mean, you could not. This is when everybody was saying you could hire a monkey to pick stocks. They throw a dart to hang the Wall Street Journal up on the wall. They throw a dart, and it was going to be a winner, right? Everything was winning back then. And then 2000 was a terrible year. 2001 was a terrible year. 2002 was a terrible year. We had the recession. 2005. So you can see again another trend that is undeniable as far as indicating when a recession may come. Now, is a recession going to happen this year? Again, nobody knows. I don't think it's probably going to happen this year, but there's a lot of political uncertainty, and that political uncertainty is going to increase as we go into the following year, where we have the 2020 elections. So it's going to happen. The point is that you need to prepare for it, and don't let this recession, whenever it happens, whether it's this year, next year, or the following year, don't let it derail your retirement. You can position your portfolio, your retirement plan in a way where not only do you not have to come out of retirement or postpone your retirement, but you can actually take advantage of the recession. But it's all about creating the plan and being ready for it, because most people think it's coming sooner than later.
Okay, we'll continue talking about some of the factors that can derail your retirement when Retiring Today continues.
You have worked for a long time. There are so many decisions to make about your retirement. How much income do you need? How not to run out of money? Now is your chance, and you get one shot to get it right. Attend Merkle Retirement Planning's Passport to Retirement. We will discuss how to create tax-free income, how to avoid the next market meltdown, and how to wring every dime out of Social Security. Your time is now. Classes fill quickly. Call or text today. Zero cost to attend.
You made it. Years of hard work, investing, planning, and now you are here. The long-awaited reward you spent a lifetime looking forward to. But what now? After years of growing a nest egg, now you may want to manage it. Use it to fund your dreams. Make it last as long as you need it, and leave some for those you love. So what do? Wall Street continues to be uncertain, and some conservative options have dropped through the floor. How do you maintain opportunities for growth and reduce risk of loss from market changes. That's where we come in. We are Merkle Retirement Planning, your personal retirement planners, from investments to tax reduction strategies and creating your blueprint to retirement guide. Have the confidence to retire today. You worked a lifetime to get here. Let us help you enjoy it to the fullest. For a complimentary visit, contact us today. Merkle Retirement Planning.
Welcome back to Retiring Today. In this episode, we're talking about those factors that could derail your retirement plan. I'm here with Loren Merkle. He's a certified financial planner, and he sits down with families every day and he works on their retirement plans. And Loren, in the first segment, we talked about how a recession can derail a retirement plan. And some people might have been watching and saying, I don't know if a recession would derail my retirement plan. That's okay if you don't know.
Yeah, actually, that's very intuitive because most people don't know. And that was one of the most tragic parts about '08 is most people had no idea how much risk they were taking. They had no idea how their portfolio would react during that surprise recession. And I fear that that's going to happen all over again whenever this next recession does come into play. And that's one of the things that we really strive to educate our families on, the families that we work with. And part of the expectation of this show is for you to take away this piece so you can not let the next recession derail your retirement. One of the things we do in a very visual, easy way, unlike all the numbers that we were showing the last segment, some people's eyes might have been glassing over, and that's okay.
And some people love graphs like Loren.
Yeah, and that's okay. That's what we do. This is what we're passionate about, is helping people prevent their retirement from going sideways. And the recession is going to do that, unfortunately, for a lot of people. But we show our families, here's how much risk you're taking. When the next recession takes place, here's how we would expect your current portfolio to react. And then we just sit back and we say, how do you feel? How does that make you nervous? Are we okay with the amount of risk that you're taking? Or do we need to make some changes now prior to this next recession taking place? And if we need to make changes, we do it. And that's good news because this recession hasn't taken place yet since 2008. So we have to be proactive. You need to be proactive right now to make sure you are in a good place prior to the next recession.
So we're talking about those things that can derail your retirement. Back to the recession. For some people, putting it in numbers makes it really easy to understand, and you've got a great example.
Yeah, I think showing real examples is a great way to demonstrate how a retirement picture may work to your benefit and how it may really not, and then give you an idea of how to make it work to your benefit. So in this example, we have Jack and Joan, and they have a $400,000 portfolio, and they're targeting just a 6% average rate of return. And the key is that 6% target. Every portfolio has a target return. So you need to know what your target return of your portfolio is, and then are you accomplishing that? For Jack and Joan, 6% is extremely reasonable. What a 6% target does for Jack and Joan is it will help them navigate through this next recession because they're not taking an overextended amount of risk to put themselves in a really bad position the next recession. And for Jack and Joan, the 6% will accomplish their goals going forward. So that's an important note to take away in this case with Jack and Joan. They're not shooting too high and they're not shooting too low. Also, what they're trying to do is they're trying to live on this portfolio. And this is a key takeaway because when a recession comes and it hits your portfolio and you're trying to take money out of the portfolio, then it just exasperates the dilution of the amount of money you have in that portfolio. So in this case, Jack and Joan have $400,000. Their target return is 6%. Their target withdrawal is 4%. So from the $400,000, they're taking 4% out as income to use as a supplement with their pension and their Social Security. So 4% of the $400,000 is $16,000 that they're taking out as additional income. Then the correction comes, or this recession comes, and their $400,000 drops by 20%. So now instead of $400,000, they have $320,000. They still need 4% from an income standpoint, so their income dropped from $16,000 to only $12,800. The reason we use the 4% rule in this case, because so many people have heard of the 4% rule, And a lot of people come to talk to us and they say, well, the income planning isn't that hard. All I need to do is take 3 or 4% out, right? And that's not necessarily the case. You need to take a reasonable amount out of your portfolio, but you also need to structure your portfolio in a way that works well with the amount that you take out. In this case, Jack and Joan, they just had the $400,000 and it lost 20%. So now either their income drops from the $16,000 to the $12,800, or now they're still taking the same $16,000 out, but it's a much bigger percentage than 4%, which means their income plan is going to implode.
Yeah, the portfolio doesn't last as long.
It doesn't last nearly as long, and this is again, in real life, this is what we see take place all the time, and this is absolutely devastating to retirees. So what Jack and Joan should have done, and what we do for Jack and Joan, is we structure their portfolio with different buckets. And what I mean by buckets is you have this piece of the $400,000 invested in a certain way. They're goal oriented towards different things than immediate income. We have this piece of their bucket that's invested in a certain way, that's goal oriented towards a different outcome than longer term investing in immediate income. And we have a different piece of their portfolio that's invested to derive the income that they need. And then we slowly pour money from this bucket to this bucket, from this bucket to this bucket. And so it's an integrated planning technique that allows them to prevent the next recession from upheaving their retirement, but also allows them to succeed much longer into retirement than just a traditional 4 or 3% withdrawal rate with all their money invested in a non-sophisticated or integrated way.
Before the break, we'll take a question from one of you, our viewers. We have Kelly in West Des Moines, and Kelly asks, who should we talk to about retirement healthcare options? Well, medical expenses in retirement are something that can derail retirement plans. We'll touch on that when Retiring Today continues.
You have worked for a long time. There are so many decisions to make about your retirement. How much income do you need? How not to run out of money? Now is your chance, and you get one shot to get it right. Attend Merkle Retirement Planning's Passport to Retirement. We will discuss how to create tax-free income, how to avoid the next market meltdown, and how to wring every dime out of Social Security. Your time is now. Classes fill quickly. Call or text today. Zero cost to attend.
It's your retirement. How will you live it? How will you be remembered?
Will you be able to take me on vacation?
Will you be there for my ball games?
Will you teach me your values? Will you be able to play with me?
Oh, help me go to college. How will I remember you?
Have the retirement you dream about. Contact us today.
Welcome back to Retiring Today. In this episode, we're talking about those factors that can derail your retirement plan. We talked about the recession in the first two segments, and now it's time to talk about medical expenses and inflation. Before the break, we had this question from Kelly in West Des Moines. Kelly asks, who should we talk to about retirement healthcare options? Loren Merkle is a certified financial planner. He works with families every day that are 10 years out from retirement or in retirement. And Loren, healthcare, that's one of the big things that people talk about. So what's the answer to Kelly's question?
Kelly, the answer to your question is you need to talk to a qualified healthcare specialist. It's one of the 5 components of our retirement blueprint because it is such a massive issue as you go to and through retirement. So you need to have a specialist, somebody who's well versed in the healthcare and the long-term care side of it. We talk about the healthcare piece of it a little bit at our passport class. It was a little bit in our book, but we talk about it on these shows because it does derail retirements. It is one of the 3 things that can derail somebody's retirement, so it's an important piece to tackle.
And you find, I think you've told me this, Loren, that families come in, let's say 65 is their retirement number. It's different for everyone.
Yeah.
They think, the first 5 to 10 years, the medical expenses, they're hoping won't be a huge part of it, but sometimes the medical expenses get bigger sooner than you anticipate.
Yeah, that's the thing, and that there's different types of medical expenses. Usually what people are worried about from a medical expense standpoint early in retirement is the premiums. The healthcare premiums. And that's changed. Wow, has that changed even over the last 5 years. Last year, people were talking about, for a married couple, paying somewhere between $1,200, $1,500 a month just in premiums. This year, couples are talking about paying $2,000, $2,200 a month. So that needs to be incorporated within your plan as well. If you're retiring prior to Medicare age, which is 65, that needs to be accounted for in the plan. And then the other medical expense is the actual care expense. And you're right, most people think about their retirement maybe in their late 70s, maybe in their early to mid 80s. That's where this added health care expense is going to come into play, and that's not necessarily the case. Every single year we live through these experiences with our families where somebody encounters an unexpected medical condition. Just last year, one of the experiences we lived through with one of our families was absolutely tragic. A young couple, just a couple years into the retirement, the gentleman, we'll just call him Bill, encountered a neurological condition, and now their retirement is completely derailed from what their dreams were. Now financially, because they did the planning and they had planned for the what ifs, they're doing fine. But it's their retirement dream, their retirement picture is completely different based on this medical condition that creeped in so early on in their retirement. So it's one thing to have the dreaming part, the vision of your retirement change. You can't really control that. But what you can control is the financial element, to make sure that you don't have to be financially devastated in the event that something like that does happen. And that's where we have to do that planning.
So we've talked about how a recession can derail retirement, medical expenses, and the other big one, Loren, is inflation.
Inflation, and a lot of people forget about the inflation because it's not necessarily as in your face as certainly a big medical condition or the recession. This is in fact, it is so silent. I label this the silent assassin because it does. It just kind of creeps up on you, and eventually 10 years later down the road in retirement, you find that you are spending much more to do the same types of things. There was I remember this very well. It was last year we were at a passport class and we were talking about this topic, inflation. And a gentleman rose his hand and he said, he was looking around the room. There was probably 30 people in the room. He was looking around the room. He said, just looking around the room, I think I'm the oldest one here. He said, I'm 85 years old. I've been retired for 15 years and I just want the class to know, I just want people to know, I have never spent more money than what I'm spending right now. And that was a good contribution because many people think when they're in their mid 80s, they're not going to be spending as much money because they're not going to be doing the same types of things they're doing in their 60s and 70s. But he just wanted to contribute and let people know, I'm 85 years old, I've never spent more money than what I'm spending right now. And a lot of that was attributed to inflation. If you're spending $5,000 a month at age 60, when you're age 85, or I'm sorry, when you're age 90, you're going to be spending almost $9,000 a month to do the same types of things that you're doing at the age of 60. So inflation is a big one. It's a silent one. We need to plan for it. It needs to be addressed right away within the plan to see how much it's going to take and what kind of drag it's going to take on your resources much later down the road in retirement.
Loren, you mentioned those passport classes. That's kind of a neat opportunity for people to really go through these things that can derail retirement and a lot more information.
Yeah, we go through quite a bit, and the passport classes are where you get to have a little bit of fun seeing how your plan might come together because most people think the retirement plan is your investments. Most people think that their investments, their products are the retirement plan. So what we explore at this passport class is all these other components, all these other things that you haven't maybe thought of yet that need to be incorporated within the plan. We get a lot of feedback sometimes. When people leave the class, they say, that was a great class, but now I'm thinking about all of these other things
Sure.
that I didn't think about before. And that's a good thing. When we get that feedback, we're happy because now we know the wheels are turning, right? The wheels are turning in the right way to help you do what it is ultimately you want to do, which is have the best retirement you possibly can.
Okay, so I'm guessing you've probably piqued some people's interest. They want to go through their retirement plan. They want to see where they're at. What should they do?
Yeah, all you have to do on the screen, we have a number. All you have to do is text that number, text passport. The class doesn't cost you anything. We don't charge you anything for the class. We have a workbook, 160 pages or so. We're not going to go through every page by page at the class. We're just going to give you the high level stuff and get into as much detail as you want us to, as we need to really convey the messages around all these different components and things you need to be talking about at the class.
Okay, so you can either text the number that's on the screen right now, the word passport, or there's a website. It's passportclass.com. There are a lot more details there. And the neat thing about the Passport class is it's being held in many locations across the state, and it's also free. So I want to make sure you have all of those details. And there's some more details, Loren. You'll go through what you really like to call the 5 key components of retirement.
Yeah, we simplify this planning process by breaking down all of these different things you need to be thinking about into 5 main components. And one of the biggest ones is the income. You're working all these years, you're making money from your employer, or you're self-employed, deriving an income. When you retire, you still need income. So where's this income going to come from? How much can you afford to take from the resources you have? And how long does it last? One of the biggest questions we get around income is, am I going to run out? Well, we can answer that question through the income piece of the plan. When you take income, you know you're gonna have to pay taxes, but in retirement, you have a lot more control over where your income comes from, which means you have more control over the amount of tax ultimately that you pay if we do the appropriate planning. The healthcare, we talked about that today. It's a big one, healthcare, long-term care. We do the estate planning piece, the legacy planning. When you have your last day, how do you transition your assets in the most favorable way to you to the next generation and your charities? And then the final component is going to be the investment piece. Again, a lot of people think the investments are the plan. It's not, but it is a big portion of your overall retirement plan.
And Loren, really the best part of the job is giving people peace of mind.
That's right.
Okay, so you like to help people move to and through retirement, so you can, again, text the number on the screen, go to the website, or watch another episode of this show. It's Retiring Today with Loren Merkle, and we thank you for watching.
You have worked for a long time. There are so many decisions to make about your retirement. How much income do you need? How not to run out of money? Now is your chance, and you get one shot to get it right. Attend Merkle Retirement Planning's Passport to Retirement. We will discuss how to create tax-free income, how to avoid the next market meltdown, and how to wring every dime out of Social Security. Your time is now. Classes fill quickly. Call or text today. Zero cost to attend.
From our family to yours, we hope you have a wonderful weekend.
We hope you enjoy the show.
Good night,